Hey you guys, so just got back from the shop. Made this. So yeah, pretty simple. This is some 20 gauge sheet metal. I bought a chunk of it from just a metal guy, and well, I've had it for a while, making little things here and there. So these two holes, if you pull the battery out, there is a plastic tray underneath it. Now in my 97, it was just a flat, in 4Runner, it was just a flat plastic tray. But in Parabellum, the 2000, it has these two little 3/4 inch kind of bumps that protrude out the bottom of it, and they go into two bumps on this little support off the inner fender. So basically, because I wanted the plastic tray to be on top, I had to make the two holes for the for those two little bumps so they can go through my battery tray and into the inner fender mount. That way it still holds it in place. I was going to permanently mount this in the truck, but when I saw those two bumps, it was just an easy way of doing it. Maybe in the future we'll like do some nutserts or something. The only thing with that is if I put anything on here, the thickness of the bolt is going to protrude up and the battery tray is going to rock on it. So that's kind of when I saw the little bumps, and so I could just make a couple holes. They're almost a 1/4 inch tall, so this just being thin 20 gauge, it worked out fine. Anyways, so if you guys are wondering, the battery measures like 10 1/4 exactly, and the tray is like 10 1/2. It's got I don't know if you can see it down there, it's got a little bit of a lip all the way around, and then this way the battery is just under 7 inches and the battery tray is at like 7 1/8. So basically is I put the tray right on this before I did the bends. Put the tray flat down, traced it out, and then I just kind of put the brake, when I was putting this on the brake, I just put it on the outside edge of my lines, and then when I bent up, everything was fine. So inside the tray, it measures 10 3/4, so I went a 1/4 inch bigger. But basically, as I kept the plastic tray flush with this edge, which is, when it sits in the truck, it sits like this. The tall side is on the fan side, and the open side of the tray is on the inner fender. So basically is that left me with a 1/4 inch of space between the battery and this face, which allows for the thickness of a bolt head in these two holes, and that's going to mount the controller on this side. I'll put a picture in here of what it looks like. I didn't get any video at the shop. It's just is loud. We had the radio going, all that kind of stuff. But don't mind the welds. First time welding with CO2 on a Mig, and only my second time welding something so thin. So it was a learning process, that's for sure. Anyways, so it's 10 3/4 this way. Basically, I made it 7 1/4 this way, so it's a pretty snug fit front to back. And then height-wise, I went with 5 1/2 inches. So you lose a little bit of real estate on the bend. This was almost 5 3/4, so in the bend you do lose not quite a 1/4 inch. But yeah, so that's kind of how it turned out. Turned out pretty good. Gave the whole thing a quick sand, and didn't really grind the welds on the outside too much. I don't really care. It's gonna be under the hood. And my buddy's gonna be powder coating this black. I was going to take it to him tonight, but with it being Thanksgiving, he's just busy and whatever. So I'll do it this week sometime. Obviously, for me it's going to be a few days, but it'll just be the second half of this video after it's powder coated. And then we'll get it installed in the truck. But yeah, so that's about it. It's got a couple holes on that side for some bolts to mount the controller to. And that's it. It's pretty simple. The sides are 3 inches tall. So basically, when this was fanned out, you know, this was folded flat, this was folded flat, and that was folded flat. So basically, the piece I cut out was 10 3/4 plus the 5 1/2. So is that like 16 1/4? I don't know, whatever it is. So yeah, that's how long the piece was. And then this piece was 7 1/4 plus 3 inches and 3 inches. So what I did was, instead of it being 7 1/4 and then 3 3, I just did 7 plus 6 inches, 3 on this side, 3 on that side. So basically, when this is flat, the whole thing ends up being 13 inches wide by, 16 and a little bit long. And then you just got to cut out each corner and then fold it up, fold it up, fold it up. And that's about it. And then basically, as I just measured the exact battery tray, added a little bit extra, and whatever that was, folded up. So these might be like 2 7/8 inches tall kind of thing. Rounded all the edges off, and then just took the MIG, and you could probably get away with just a couple tacks, and that'd be good enough. But yeah, don't mind the welds. They're not the best. I had to do like little burps just because of the heat. It was starting to pop through, and if you can see there, it burned through, and I had to fill it in. Yeah, so we're gonna get this powder coated, and then we'll get it in the truck. So basically, once it sits in the truck, again, I'll stick a photo in. It's gonna go in like that under the battery, and the controller will sit on the side, and then we'll wire it in. But yeah, we will end this video here, and another day, once it's powder coated, we will install it and upgrade the battery terminals, because, well, these factory ones are just crap, and there's going to be a subwoofer going in, and well, all kinds of stuff. So this crap's got to go. Hey YouTube, we are back. Got her all powder coated. Later on, a little thick in the middle there, but that's right, it'll be under the battery. Everything else looks good. Never mind the welds. Never welded something so thin before. It blew through in a couple spots, but that's alright. So, we're going to take the battery out. I think it's a 12mm socket for the 2 hold downs. And I think that one's been changed, so that's a 13. And I think that guy is a 10. We'll get the battery out, and I'll show you how the box goes in. Okay, so we got the battery out. You can see it's got I think it's a little nylon tray with a couple little dimples. That's where the battery hold down hooks into, and the front one is just on the bolt here. So this literally just sits there. Those 2 little dimples go into 2 of those holes. Now, I'm not sure why it has multiple holes, but yeah, it seems like it uses the wider set out here and back here. So my 97 North Runner, this was just a flat plate with the dimple dyed kind of slot in the middle. It didn't have these holes, and this tray was just flat on the bottom. There was nothing protruding out to kind of hold it in place, so literally the battery would kind of slide around in the truck, even with the hold down just cranked and bending. Yeah, it would still flop around. So don't bump that, it's your airbag sensor, that's why it's yellow. Anyways, so basically, you can see I drilled a couple little holes in there just to get me centered, and there's 2 holes in there. So this drops inside, and the little dimples protrude out, and they go right back in their slots. So this just, it's alright. Literally just locks in like that. Nice flat plate on one side, open on that side. That's basically it. Came out pretty simple. So we'll set the battery back in here and get it clamped down. But before we do that, we're gonna mount our controller on the side. You can see there's a couple holes drilled in the side here. And had these bolts just, focus. Had these bolts just sitting in a drawer. They're M6, so I got M6 nylon nuts. And they're just stainless bolts. I think they came from a light bar or something that I ended up using a different mount on. So they're just left over from that. Yeah, I think they take a 5mm hex and then just a 10mm socket on this side. So we're gonna get that bolted on and drop the battery back in. Okay, so that's how it looks. Kind of just sitting in there with the controller on the one side. It's a little heavy and it kind of wants to tip that way. So the power wire, I just got looped over the rad and around the light just to kind of help support it so I can set the battery in there without it getting all wonky. Alright, so we got the battery in there. You can see it is a pretty nice fit. I gave it about a 1/4" clearance all the way around the battery. So sits on there pretty nice. I guess tweak the battery this way a little bit, straighten it out. So while we got it all disconnected, we're gonna upgrade the battery terminals. I just bought a couple brass terminals just from Can Tire. Bought them on Amazon before, brass ones, but they're the same price, and Can Tire is just a few minutes away, so didn't have to wait. So we're gonna upgrade the positive for sure. I need some terminals for the negative because this one's been changed out. It's just a clamp-on style negative. And I don't think I have, I think this is 4 gauge. I don't think I have 4 gauge terminals. Because I got one that's like this. It just has a nut on top with a stud, and you just put the eyes on the stud and tighten it down. So we're going to change this one to a brass one. This one I might have to leave until I can go grab some terminals. This is what I grabbed from Can Tire yesterday on my way home from work. I didn't think to grab terminals. We grabbed some black RTV, which is going to be for the deck plate mod we're going to be doing. Grabbed a braided strap just to upgrade that ground over there a little bit. That one's pretty weak. We're not going to touch that until I get some lugs to crimp on the end of that wire. But these are the terminals we're going to use. So pretty simple. I think they're marine, but I mean, terminals are terminals. We'll get that one on. Just wanted to stop and take a sec here, guys, to show you. If you're ever having trouble with the terminals getting on, like the diameter of the terminal being too small for the terminal on the battery, meaning you got to like spread that apart in order to get it on. Instead of trying to get a screwdriver in here and like pry it open or something, it'll usually get on part way because these are tapered. So basically what I do is I just take a socket, 21 fits pretty good, set it over that. Obviously don't touch it to anything while you're working here, but take it over there and I just take a small dead blow or a hammer and just give it some, don't beat it on there, but just tap it down, and this kind of acts like you're driving in a bearing or a seal or something. So you can just go on there and tap it down, and you can get her seated right to the bottom, and then throw your nut back in. Alright, so we got it all on there. Negative isn't hooked up yet. So this thing is basically, this is threaded, the brass casting itself, and then there's a brass bolt that comes through with the wing nut on top. So that bolt's threaded in. And of course it's got a wing nut. So when I head back to Can Tire to grab the clamp-on lugs for the negative, I'm just going to, when I get in the parking lot, I'm just going to take this bolt out. That way I have the thread and everything with me, and I'll just take it in. And I'm just going to change that out to an actual bolt itself. And I might run the bolt. I have to take this off, obviously, because we don't have the height here to sneak a bolt in. So I'll have to take it back off. run the bolt in from the bottom. I might put a jam nut on it first just to make sure it never moves, and then I'll run my wires and stuff on top of that, and then put a proper bolt on the top. That way it's just a better connection. Down the road I might even end up putting in like a small distribution block, because there's a woofer that's got to go in the back. Yeah, there's a woofer that's got to go in. There might be a small little auxiliary fuse box or something I can hide somewhere to run some interior accessories, because I got a CB to go in, and some extra lighting and stuff I want to put in as well. So well, hell, maybe I even have some leftover circuits. I can have the remote control inside, could even run my interior lights. That's an option too. But that's basically it. We're gonna get the ground. Oh, let me just put the ground back on right now. So yeah, power antenna's doing something. That's basically it. It's all installed. Like I said, I still have the negative to hook up, but I got to get rid of that stupid clamp on crap. We'll get rid of that and get the other one of these on. So we'll get some lugs to crimp onto those couple of wires. We're gonna put the braided strap on that ground. We'll sand some of the paint off that bolt there, get the ground onto it, run that bolt back in, and then just touch it with some silver paint. That way it semi rust proof. So that's basically going to be it for this video. I'll probably come back with another video when I start putting lights and stuff on. We got to get the big pit bar, so to speak, on the front, so I can get those big lights on. That's what I'm excited to do. I got to find someone to do some water jetting for those side pieces. I could cut them by hand, but I'll probably end up butchering it. Then we get it all welded together, and then send it out to just outside of Oak Bluff. I know a guy that does some powder coating. He's got a pretty big oven you can walk in. So my buddy does powder coating, but his oven ain't big enough to put this full piece in. So we'll get him out there to powder coat that whole front piece. And yeah, so that's basically gonna be it for this install. We're probably gonna end up doing the deck plate mod next, before I end up getting some lights and stuff on. I gotta strip some lights off of 4Runner so I can get it ready to sell. And I got brand new brake calipers on 4Runner. They've been on there for a few weeks before I got Parabellum running. And when it's getting cold in the mornings, like freezing temps, my passenger front brake caliper is like staying squeezed when I let go of the brake. It doesn't want to let go. And I basically got to jerk the tire and kind of stomp on the pedal a little bit to get it to free up. So we're going to have to be, we're going to change out the brakes on the front of this and bleed them and everything. So I'll do a video on that. But yeah, so we'll probably do deck plate mod, brakes, and in amongst that, we'll figure out this whole thing. I got to get this whole design into CAD. So I can get these side pieces, so I can actually get it to somebody with a water jet and get them to cut it all out. So we'll see you guys in the next video.